My goal today is to help you understand 2.1 through 2.5 for your quiz coming up on Monday and your test on Wednesday. This section right here is some important information that you're going to want to remember. Everyone say KFC. KFC. Keep, flip, change. Keep, flip, change. All right, read me what the next one says in blue. You only use the KFC method when dividing fractions. So remember, you're not going to do this for adding, subtracting, or for multiplying. It's only for dividing. Next up, the product of two negative numbers is always positive. What I like to do when I have things like this is to give myself some kind of a visual. So let's come up with two negative numbers. Negative 2 and negative 4. I like it. Now it says the product. Remember, what does product mean? Multiplying. Guys, what's negative 2 times negative 4? 8. Go ahead and write this over there. This is you just giving yourself a visual. When you come to your quiz and your test next week, there will be some true and false. I always suggest give yourself some kind of an example so that you can see, is this a true statement or is this false? Next up, the quotient. What does quotient mean? Nope, not multiply. Dividend, divisor, quotient. What is that? Dividing, okay? So for dividing, we're just going to use a fraction bar. Let's start with maybe a negative 10 divided by 5, okay? So what it says is having a positive and a negative number, which we have there. It says the answer is always going to be negative. So what would my answer be? Negative 2. So that would also be a true statement. Next up, when multiplying three negative numbers. So let's just do, I like to do small numbers so it's pretty easy. Negative 2, negative 3, negative 1. You see 3 negatives there. 3 is odd, so should your answer be positive or negative? It is going to be negative, we know that for sure, and then multiply across. 3 times 2 is 6 times 1, 6. So what's the answer? Negative 6 is correct. As we just said, finding the product means that we're going to multiply things together. First one, AJ. What's 5 times negative 4? Negative 20 is correct. There was only one negative there, so we know our answer has to be negative. Moving on to the next one. When I am multiplying decimals, do I have to line up my decimals? No, you do not. So let's just write this here. Directly underneath it, 0.21 times 3.4. Once again, notice I did not line up the decimals. I do have to be aware, though, how many times that decimal point moved over. How many times did it move? It moved 2, so give yourself a little 2. How many times did this one move? Just 1. I want to see this work here so that you're showing me you understand it's got to move over 3 times. I want you guys to try problem B on your own. As I just walked around, I saw a lot of correct answers. Remember, for the first one, we are just going to be multiplying times this 4 right here. As I multiply that out, 1 times 4 is 4, 2 times 4 is 8. Put the 0 as the placeholder, and now we are just going to be multiplying times the 3. 1 times 3 is 3, 2 times 3 is 6. When you add this together, 714. Some people left it like that, but remember what we talked about. You've got to move that decimal point how many places? 3 places to the right, 1, 2, 3, 0.714. Going back to my original problem, I multiplied a negative times a negative. What should my answer be? A positive. So I'm going to go ahead and write 0.714. That is a positive, and that's my final answer. Who would say by raising your hand that you got that correct? If you did not, that's okay. Erase it and make your notes look just like mine. Problem C is mixed numbers. When I am multiplying mixed numbers, I have to turn it into improper fractions. Hope, what would negative 3 1/3 be as an improper fraction? Not 9 over 3. You multiply 3 times 3 is 9, and then you still have to add that 1. 10 over 3. And remember, it was a negative, so I'm keeping my negative. Alexis, what would 2 7/10 be? 27/10 is correct. Ariana, can I reduce anything?
Yes, ma'am. Both turn to 1.
Very good.
And 3 and 27.
Very good. A 1 and a 9. Now, as you can see, I am multiplying a negative times a positive, so my answer has to be has to be a negative. And when I'm multiplying 1 over 1 times 9 over 1, what do I get? Negative 9 over 1. Do I need this right here? No. Anytime you have something over a 1, I want you to get rid of it and show me that you understand you're dividing by 1, which means the answer would just be negative 9. Find the quotient. This first one, I am dividing a fraction by a fraction. Am I allowed to do that?
No.
No. What method do I have to use when I'm dividing fractions? KFC. Keep the first one, which is 2/9. Flip the second one, so it will be 3 over 2, and change the operation. Gabe, do it for me.
Cancel out 2 and 2, and then 3 goes into 9 3 times.
Very good. What do you get?
1 over 3.
1 over 3. And that is your final answer. Nothing can be reduced because the top number is smaller than the bottom, and it's not improper. Very good. Next one, Thomas. Negative 6 divided by negative 3. Should my answer be positive or negative?
Positive.
It should be positive, so what's the final answer?
Positive 2.
Positive 2 is correct. 7.5 divided by 2.5. A lot of people have shown me they're having a hard time understanding. You have to cover up the first number. Okay, so I write 7.5 divided by, I put it over the first number 2.5. Please take your red pen. As I reminded you yesterday, you are never allowed to have a decimal point on that number that's tucked outside of the division sign. So I have to move that decimal over 1 time. If I move this one over 1 time, what do I have to do to this one? Also move it over 1 time. Now, I don't want you working down underneath that. That just shows me you understand you have to move it. I want you to rewrite it. Instead of 7.5, it should say 75 divided by 25. When I see 25s, I think of it like a quarter. How many times can a quarter go into 75 cents? 3 times. If you multiply it out, you'll see that the correct answer is 3. I'm going to rewrite it. Is that positive or negative?
Positive.
It's a positive. Notice if there's nothing up here that's a negative, then you're going to keep having positive answers. Any questions on how to find a quotient? Use the number properties to multiply. The number property I've taught you is the commutative property. That says you're allowed to move fractions or numbers around to help you find shortcuts. What should I move around? Rodney?
3 over 2.
Very good. So here I've got negative 2/3. The reciprocal is negative 3 over 2. So I am going to move the order or switch the order of those two. Now this is negative 3 over 2, and then I'm going to multiply it by 5/8. Let's just focus on going from left to right. Rodney, can I reduce anything over there? Very good. Those 2's are going to become 1's, and the 3's are going to become 1's. Let's focus only on this part that I've underlined. I'm multiplying a negative times a negative. So what is 1 over 1 times 1 over 1?
1.
Just plain old 1. And what else do I need to bring down?
5/8.
What about the 5/8? What does it mean when there's parentheses? Multiply. A lot of people have brought the 5/8 down and said their answer was 1 and 5/8. What does it mean when a number is right next to parentheses?
Times.
Multiply. So what's 1 times 5/8?
5/8.
5/8 is correct. So when you get to your quiz and it asks you to use the number properties, that means you're going to show me that you understand you're allowed to move the fractions or the numbers around using the commutative property. Let's flip the page to our modeling real life problem. You'll see here we've got 3 examples of modeling real life, and you're going to need to know and understand the concepts of all 3 of these for your quiz and test next week. A swimmer's best time in an event is 53.87 seconds. On average, his best time decreases by 0.28 seconds each of the next 5 times he swims the event. Does he accomplish his goal of swimming in less than 52.5 seconds? When you have a problem like this, you've got to figure out what was their best time, or what did we start with? What is it that we started with, class?
53.5 or 8.
Everyone underline it. That's going to be some important information. That's what I started with, 53.87 seconds. Write that down. Next, to tell me his time decreases. Underline this with a squiggly line, just the word decreases. If something is decreasing, what sign or what operation do you think I need to use? Subtraction. Everybody put a subtraction. Now I want you to read the rest of the problem to see if you think you could figure out what you need to do. That is correct. We're going to multiply 0.28 seconds, so just go ahead and circle it, by 5. Here's why. It says every single time that he is swimming it, his time's going down by 0.28 seconds. He doesn't only swim it one time, he swims it how many times? 5 times. So I could go 0.28 plus 0.28 plus 0.28 plus 0.28 plus 0.28 5 times, or I could just multiply 0.28 times 5. And this is going to help us to understand, after the 5th time he swims it, what his time was. According to PEMDAS, should I multiply first or should I subtract first? We're going to multiply first. So take your pencil, please underline the step that we're going to do. Go ahead and multiply it over here, 0.28 times 5. When you guys multiplied it, what did you get? Okay, notice this moved over 2 times. So as you're multiplying, please make sure you've got to move that decimal point over. So we get 1.40 or 1.4. Either one, you can keep it. What should I do with this? Let's bring it down. Bring down the 53.87 and please bring down the minus sign. Now all we have left to do is subtract. Please do that and see what answer you get. Gabe, what's your answer?
52.47.
Excellent. 52.47. Now I want to go back to see what the question was. Does he accomplish his goal of swimming in less than 52.5 seconds? Guys, is 52.47 less than or smaller than 52.5? Yes, it is. So the correct answer is yes. We're going to box in just the part that says yes. Always make sure you go back and see. The final question is asking you a yes or no answer. Make sure you give back a yes or no response. All right, so here we've got a grizzly bear problem again. We had one of these on our last test that we took. A grizzly bear weighed 600 pounds. After hibernating for 5 months, she only weighed 500 pounds. How much weight did she lose per month? Do you guys remember that little equation that we used at the beginning? What was it? Most of you sounded close. Repeat after me. Final minus initial divided by the time. Do it one more time. Do it with me. Ready, begin. Final minus initial divided by the time. Let's see what the final weight was. At the end of our problem, how much did it say she weighed? 500. So we're going to plug in 500 for her final weight. Minus her initial weight. How much did she weigh initially?
600.
She weighed 600 pounds to start with. So notice all I'm doing is I'm plugging in right here. Divided by the time. What is my time?
5 months.
Okay, it told us that she was there for 5 months. All we did was plug some things in. Let's start with the numerator. What is 500 minus 600? Negative 100. Okay, take the sign of the larger number. Divided by the time, 5 months. So it tells me that she lost 100 pounds in 5 months. But if I go back to my final question, how much weight did she lose per month? So I don't want to know 5 months. I want to know 1 month. How do I do that? Divide by 5 on top and bottom to see what you get. What'd you get, guys? Thank you for saying negative 20 pounds per month. Remember, you've got to make sure as you go, how much weight did she lose per month? She lost 20 pounds per month. That's why it's a negative, because she lost that weight. Negative 20 means she lost the weight. We also had a problem like problem C on our last test. You play a game on your phone. For every correct move you make, you receive 10 points. So right there, I know I need to learn and think about my correct moves. That's going to play a huge part in what my score is. So everyone write down correct moves. For every second that it takes you to complete the game, you lose 3 points. So based on my time, I will be getting negative points or losing points. You complete the game in 20 seconds using 9 correct moves. How many points is your final score? A lot of people missed this on our last test. I want you to try to see if you can break down the information for your correct moves and your time. All right, let's see how you did. For every correct move you make, how many points do you get? 10. So I'm going to put a 10. Did we learn how many correct moves we had? How many? 9. I'm going to highlight this. There were 9 correct moves. So I could do 10 plus 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 10 9 times, or what could I do instead? Just multiply it together. How many points am I getting from my correct moves? 90. Is that positive or negative points? Positive points. Circle it. That's an important piece. Next, I'm going to go up here and underline my information. Now, it does help, guys, to highlight, underline, circle information in the original problem so that you understand what it is you're looking for. The next thing we said that we have to focus on is the time. For every second it takes you to complete the game, you lose how many points? I'm going to underline that. I lose 3 points. If I'm losing points, is that positive or negative? Negative 3. How many seconds did it take us? 20 seconds. I'm going to underline that information. What should I do to my negative 3 and my 20? I should times it or multiply those two together. What is negative 3 times positive 20? Negative 60. I'm going to circle that. That's an important piece. Now I've just got to combine those two scores, positive 90 and negative 60. What is 90 minus 60? 30. So when I go back to my final question, it says, how many points is your final score? The answer would be 30 points. So that is the last modeling real life problem that you guys need to know for your quiz and test next week. Section 5, evaluate the expression when x equals 2 and y equals negative 6. This is one of those plug it in situations. Instead of x squared, I'm going to put 2 squared over, now if you want to, you can put parentheses here, you don't have to. If there's ever a negative that you're plugging in with a square, I would say always put parentheses, but you don't have to. Over a y, what is a y? Negative 6. Chloe, what would I say positive 2 squared is?
2 times 2.
Which is?
4.
4 divided by negative 6. Class, can this be reduced? Yes. What number goes into 4 that also goes into 6? A 2. What would that be reduced? Negative 2/3. And that's your final answer. I want you to do problem B on your own. Plug the numbers in first and then see what your answer is. All right, let's check to see what you guys got. Instead of negative x times 5 plus y, what did you write for that first line?
2 times 5 plus negative 6.
Excellent. What do I do next? You have to multiply. What is negative 2 times 5? Negative 10 plus negative 6. What should I do next? We're going to add them together. If you want to get rid of those double signs, you can. Whenever you're adding a negative, negative always wins, which means negative 10. Now I want you to get rid of those parentheses, okay? The reason the parentheses are there is telling us it's a negative. Now I can see negative 10 minus 6. What is negative 10 minus 6? Negative 16. How many of you would say you got negative 16? If you did not, that's okay. Erase it and fix it so that your notes are correct. Are there any questions about problem B? Write the decimal as a fraction or a mixed number in simplest form. On negative 4.6, part of that is a whole number and part of it is a part of a number. Which one of those is the whole number? Negative 4. Okay, so this -4, I'm just going to drop that down because I know I'm keeping my whole number. Now I want to focus on 0.6. What place is 0.6 in?
Tens.
The tenths. So what would that be instead of 0.6? I could say it is 6/10. Notice we get rid of the decimal point. You either say 0.6 or you say 6/10. So this is my whole number. Then you could see here, this is the part of the number, or this is the fraction. Can my fraction reduce at all?
Yes.
Yes, it's an even number, so I can divide it by 2. Instead of -4 and 6/10, what will my answer be?
-4 and 3/5.
-4 and 3/5 is correct. Any questions on how we turned that decimal into a fraction? Let's look at the next one. Emma, what place is the 0.76 in? The hundredths is correct. So this, instead of saying 0.76, I could say 76 hundredths. Emma, can that be reduced at all? Yes. What number can go into both of those?
2.
For sure a 2. So I'm dividing by 2 on top, dividing by 2 on bottom. The bottom number is probably the easiest. Guys, what's 100 cut in half? That's going to be 50. The harder one that sometimes people don't know is 76 divided by 2. Just go off to the side. You can divide it out right there to find what's the answer.
28.
Not 28,
38.
38. Is this my final answer? No, why not?
You can divide it by 2.
I can still divide it by 2 again, which means once again I'm going to be cutting both of these numbers in half. Let's start with the 50, the number on bottom. What is 50 cut in half, or 50 divided by 2? 25. The other one, once again, if you don't know how to do this in your head, come off to the side. 38 divided by 2, and what do you get? 19. Is there any number that can go into a 19 that also goes into a 25? No, there is not. So that is our final answer. Questions on how to turn a decimal into a fraction. All right, we've got final 2 problems. Now we're going to kind of do the opposite. Now what I'm doing is I'm giving you a fraction, and I want you to write it as a decimal. -3/16. What does that mean? It means divide. Which number needs to get covered up?
3.
The top number, the 3. 3 divided by 16. Put your decimal point. How many zeros do we put?
3.
Let's go and put 3 zeros. Bring that decimal point up. Can a 16 go into a 3? No, you can stick a 0 if that helps you. If not, how many times does 16 go into 30? Only 1 time. You guys try this on your own. So here we have 1 times 16 is 16. Listen, as I walked around, if you messed up, just erase where you see the mistake has happened, okay? This, when you subtract, what should I have gotten? 14. Guys, follow on your paper. Right now you're checking to see if yours is correct or not. This is where people had the hardest time. Take your best guess. How many times can 16 go into 140? 8 times. 8 times 6 is 48, and then I'm going to put a little 4 on top. 8 times 1 is 8, plus 4, 12. Once again, if your paper doesn't look like this, erase it and try to catch up with us. 10 minus 8 is 2, 3 minus 2 is 1, 12 is smaller than 16. A lot of you guys are forgetting that compare part. You've got to check to see, is it smaller? If it's not, then something went wrong up here. But that is smaller. Now, just kind of what I would say is guess. This is about like a 20. Count by 20s until you get to 120 to get your best guess of what number or how many times 16 can go into 120. How many times do you think? 6 or 7. I'm going to try a 7. 7 times 6 is 42. 4 on top. 7 times 1 is 7, plus 4 is 11. Now listen, some people were trying to tell me, okay, it's repeating. You cannot tell me that something is repeating until you literally see it up here like 3 times. As I look at the top, there is nothing repeating up there yet. So don't try to stop the problem until we can try to get it to end. As I subtract this, I could see 120 minus 112 is 8. 8 is smaller than 16, so I can keep going. There's no more zeros, so I'm just going to write another 0 up there because you can write as many zeros as you want. Drop down the 0. How many times can 16 go into 80? 5 times. 5 times 6 is 30. Let's erase this 4, put a 3 on top. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 3 is 8. Now, this is when we get very happy because it ended in a 0. All right, that means I'm officially finished. Going back. This says a negative fraction, which means I also have a negative decimal. So we're going to rewrite our answer, negative 0.1875. All right, if you're struggling with this, you've got to go back in. I believe this is 2.3. Go back through and go over those lessons to see if you can get this to make more sense to you. Let's go on to the next one. 2 1/6. What would that be as an improper fraction? 13/6. Try it on your own. Okay, remember the first number goes first. 13 divided by 6. 0.000. 2 times 6 is 12. When you subtract, you get this. It goes in 1 time. I saw a lot of you that had this there. 6 times 6 is 36. And now I see, remember you want to do it at least 3 times before you can sense, okay, this is definitely a pattern. Now, I had some people who are writing that bar notation over all the 6s. How many 6s do I need to put it over?
1.
Only one of them. So should my answer be positive or negative? It is positive. If you notice, if I had a positive fraction, I'm also going to have a positive decimal. How many of you would say you got problem B correct and you put the bar notation on top? You have to make sure you show me that little bar notation instead of just boxing in something up there on top. So tonight's homework, we wrote it down yesterday, 2.5. There's just 9 problems. Remember, you need to submit it on Big Ideas and do it on your actual math page. Next up, this is just a reminder. Use these notes from today to study for your quiz coming up on Monday. And also remember, your timeline events paper is due on Tuesday. If you can bring it to me tomorrow, that would be awesome, because then I can help you as we work on your project in class.